Republican Chairman Reince Priebus had an unannounced meeting at RNC headquarters in Washington, D.C. Now, Trump tweeted this following, well, he said this following the meeting, quote, just had a nice, very nice meeting. I can't say nice. It's a very nice meeting with @Reince Priebus and the @GOP. Looking forward to bringing the party together. And it will happen. So now we're learning about the details of this closed-door meeting. Joining us is Leon Wolf, managing editor of RedState.com. So, Leon, what were the details of this meeting? Do you think that Trump just actually walked in here and I'm going to be, because I have all these theories, I have all of these thoughts in my, he maybe walked in there and said, no matter how many delegates I have, I should be the nominee, or maybe he threatened Reince. I don't know. Reince is, I think he's shorter than Trump is. Maybe he threw him around the room. I don't know what happened. What do you know?
Right. So, the levels of distrust between supporters of Trump and supporters of the non-Trump camp is pretty much at an all-time high. So, of course, neither of the camps is being tremendously open about what transpired at that meeting. And, of course, I'm not on Donald Trump's Christmas card list anyway. But from people that I have talked to who are more or less familiar with what happened, it was actually Trump who called the meeting and not the GOP. Apparently, Trump was in D.C. anyway and made the reach out to the GOP. From the GOP side, their belief was, oh, here comes another opportunity for us to explain to Donald Trump the delegate rules, because they, the people I've talked to at the RNC say that explaining the delegate allocation processes to Donald Trump is an apparently impossible thing to do. And so I don't know how much of that is feigned or how much of that is real, but they're like, okay, that's great, let's have this. And they were, of course, kind of blindsided when the tweet came out afterwards. But, that was how they perceived it. And from Trump's side, his goal, from what I understand going in, was that he'd use it as a positive thing for his supporters whenever he's seen to pick a fight with the GOP. And then they have one of these meetings and they come out and he says everything's fine, everything's great. It advances the impression that he likes to create that, he's in charge of things and he's sticking up for himself.
You mentioned the delegate process, because what is the story now? He's saying that he had delegates stolen from him in Louisiana. Look, that night when the results were coming in, we knew that night that they walked away 18-18, Cruz and Trump. And from what I've been hearing, that the only reason Trump is now thinking that this is a huge deal is because he didn't know, because his campaign didn't tell him.
Right. No, it's kind of embarrassing, the extent to which the I's have not been dotted and the T's have not been crossed. And Trump's gotten away with it to some extent because, he's gotten so many votes that he's gotten enough automatic delegates that he's obviously entitled to, but he is losing some along the way from clearly just not understanding the process or not even really showing any willingness to want to understand the details of the process, and that definitely happened in Louisiana. But to me, it's rich that Donald Trump, of all people, complains about the process of delegate allocation. Donald Trump has gotten about 38% of the popular vote in the Republican primary so far. He's got about 45 to 46% of the delegates. So it's the process is the only reason that he's anywhere even close to being at 1237 or on a path to get to 1237 right now. And so it's rich when he turns around and, on the other hand, complains about the rules and how they are.
He had said in that town hall that he was not going to honor the Republican pledge and the pledge to support the Republican nominee anymore. I said, well, if it's me, I'd have to see who it is. But he has now said that he's not going to honor the pledge. What do you make of that?
Well, it's not something that's surprising from Trump's part, but then again, it may turn out to be an unforced error. In fact, there are news reports out right now that South Carolina is considering withdrawing all 50 of Trump's bound delegates because of having said that, because South Carolina is one of, I think, a dozen states where you have to sign a little form that says, I pledge to support the eventual GOP nominee in order to be placed on the ballot. And Trump signed that. And so now there are some, pro-Cruz forces or even some, people who are supporting even other candidates who are going to South Carolina, filed a protest. The chair of the South Carolina GOP said that this is something they were going to look at. So something they're apparently taking seriously is the possibility that Trump's mouth may have cost him 50 delegates in South Carolina, and who knows where else.
Yeah, well, in each of those states, they have their own regulations. It's like a big old Rube Goldberg machine, honestly, in tallying up and figuring out all of these delegates. And he knew, I was talking to one of his former aides, Sam Nunberg, on my radio program today, and the understanding seems to be that his campaign, just from not having run a campaign like this before, obviously, he does not have enough people on hand to adequately explain this to him, who understand it, who really get the delegate system, which may be why he brought Paul Paul Manafort in, who ran the delegate system with Reagan.
Yeah, it is an admittedly somewhat complicated process. It's not something that people who have never worked in presidential politics would understand just innately. That said, it is something that someone with moderate to average intelligence, as Trump professes to be, they are concepts that kind of person can understand. I mean, it's winner take all statewide, winner take all by district is kind of a tongue twister to say, but once you explain it to someone of average intelligence, I think they should understand that.
Right.
My understanding is that where Trump is confused is what will happen at the convention, or at least allegedly confused, is what will happen at the convention if he doesn't get 1237. What is the process going from there on out? Which, of course, is something a lot of people are confused about.
Before I let you go, I wanted to get your reaction to the abortion comments yesterday, and I had said too that I always welcome a convert to the pro-life cause. I love that. I mean, I don't want to shame someone for coming to that perspective, to that belief. But at the same time, people who support Trump, they can't be surprised that people who might be on the fence would be suspicious of sincerity when he would say two different conflicting things in the span of one afternoon.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Dana. I want to see pro-life converts, but this is, it's a biblical concept as well. You don't put a new Christian in charge of your church, and it's
true.
It's difficult to put a new convert as the standard bearer for our party and therefore ideology. And the reason for it is what you saw unfold in the media. There have been a lot of moments that I've had in this campaign involving Trump that have been less than positive for me in terms of personal reaction, and that was probably the top of my list, because as somebody who's primarily a pro-lifer is the reason that I am a conservative. I feel like Donald Trump may have personally set the movement back 5 or 6 years with those comments, because they are, you can like it or not, he is the Republican frontrunner right now, and he's given everybody campaign material for years and years to come, directly contradicting something that we have been working on, clarifying with the public for 30-something years. And so whether Donald Trump's conversion is sincere or not, I don't know. I suspect that it's not. I suspect that he has no real ideological weather vane either way. But regardless of whether it's sincere or not, I didn't think Mitt Romney's conversion was particularly sincere, but Mitt Romney at least had message discipline. So, whatever you might think about that, Trump has clearly done something worse.
I think it's very well said. Leon Wolf, managing editor.